evening, FinsNationUK. How are we all doing? Some of you may remember me. My name is Mark. I have been a Dolphins fan for more years than I'd like to say, and I have previously been a guest on this podcast with Andy, and have now kind of tried to take it on board and look to provide a new experience for everybody, for all you Fins fans here in the UK, and look to do kind of a weekly update from ourselves. I'm sure a lot of you are aware, obviously, from the Fins Nation UK Facebook group, and kind of Wayne and all those guys. The idea is to kind of give us a bit of an overview and a bit of a chance to chat. And there'll be guest slots and different things like that over the coming season, or sort of coming off season. And we'll try and keep you up to date with as much of the news as we can, and hopefully provide a few laughs, a bit of insight, and just generally do what us Dolphins fans all like to do, which is commiserate with each other, sympathise with each other, and have a bit of a moment. But hopefully better times are ahead. So without further ado, this episode is going to be our draft recap episode. I'm sure everybody was aware. Obviously, it was the NFL draft last weekend, including a pick from our very own Wayne, presented by our very own Wayne Collard. So that was quite exciting for us UK fans. And the plan will be to kind of go over the draft, look at the players, and in order to help me do that, I've got some guests from the Fins Nation UK page. So I'm going to bring those guys in. Let's have a look. So joining us on the podcast this week is Owyn, Tom, and Nick. So welcome along, guys. How's everybody doing?
Very good.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Aye, not so bad, mate. Cheers.
Jolly good. So just to give you a bit of a feel of kind of how I got into the Dolphins. I got into the Dolphins in probably the late 80s, early 90s, watching Gary Imlach on Channel 4, and which probably, Nick might remember, but the other two probably maybe not. And around that time, you kind of fell into a few buckets. You kind of fell into a Raiders fan because everybody loved the cool black and silver merchandise. You were a Dolphins fan because everybody loved the orange and aqua, or you kind of were a San Francisco fan because of Joe Montana, and that was who everybody knew. I fell in love with the Dolphins primarily because, one, I did love the uniforms, but I fell in love with Dan Marino and the way Dan Marino played the game, and he's my kind of all-time hero. And he was the guy that kind of got me in, and obviously, we were so close to being good when he was playing, and it's a travesty that he never won a Super Bowl. But I'm sure lots of controversy, but for me, the greatest quarterback of all time. So that was, and then obviously kind of over the years, I kind of dipped in and out, and then with the resurgence of NFL over the past few years in this country, definitely, the access has obviously been a lot better. So I kind of pulled that all back in, and kind of always been a fan for that long. So it was a long time, and as everybody knows, very much a long time starved of any kind of success, really, in terms of being a Dolphins fan. But there we go. So let's go around the room. So if we start with you, Owyn, what's your Dolphin story?
Oh, well, I'm early on, I'm only young, so I'm only 21, but I got into them about 2018, 2019, and I used to go trips to Florida every year, my family sees, so it was kind of like destined. But for me, it started off with just watching highlights, and there's just one player that stuck out to me, and that was Jarvis Landry. Just how gritty he was as a player, and it just really it'd be get attached to the Dolphins, and then it was just constantly just going through it, trying to really pick my team, and then it was kind of weird in the end. I talked to my father, and I said, I started watching the NFL and stuff now, and he said, would you support the Dolphins? Yeah, he said he's a Miami Dolphins fan since he was younger, so he was kind of like just destined then. And then since then, he would just be going to NFL London, watch them. We went to see the Jags. Obviously, it wasn't a good display, but the second game I went to, and I went for my 21st birthday. Went to Miami to actually go watch a Bengals game, which was another loss. So it hasn't been a great, kind of just coming to the realization how bang, not good. Yeah, we haven't been for the last couple of years, but it's just hopefully now there's a big change, and I'm really hoping for it now, continuing with Hafney and Sully coming in now, really, to be honest. But just gritty players that play for Miami, stuck with the team, and just like that. Really, for me, it was just that's what got me into it.
Excellent. I was also at that Jags game. That's the only Dolphins game I've been to so far. But that was just why didn't they just go down earlier and stop the clock? Eddie, don't get me started.
That's questions in there.
But so how about yourself, Nick?
So very much the same family trip to America, but this time was to Dallas, and it was back in '81. Miami played at Dallas. It was for a family wedding. We were all taken, or not all, but the family members were all taken to a game on the Sunday, and saw David Woodley throw 5 interceptions in the game. So that was an impressive start to supporting the Miami Dolphins, and I don't know why I decided to pick them, but being British, I suppose I chose the underdog. And then the next year, of course, the highlights started on Channel 4. So just ever since then, just stayed with them. Lived in America for a couple of years, so got to see quite a lot of games back then, including actually talking of 5 interceptions. Saw Dan Marino throw 5 interceptions against the Giants. I am a curse when I go to games normally. I've seen an awful lot more.
You like Andy. Andy was the same. He was like that. He was a curse whenever he was winning games.
Yeah, I've seen an awful lot more defeats than I've seen victories. If I'm there, it's a real struggle to win. But you stick by your team. You get one, and that's it.
No, fair enough. That's so. I think that's one of the things that kind of I do like about Dolphins fans, and generally because of how rubbish we've been. It's people who've picked a side and stuck with the side because obviously of how the seasons have gone. Whereas I think with the NFL, kind of obviously a lot of us being over here, if you're a football fan or a soccer fan, you kind of get ingrained in your team, and that's kind of it, which is a little bit more difficult when it's so far away. But I do think that Dolphins fans tend to kind of have a team and have stayed with the team because obviously why would you if you weren't dedicated? But there we go. So thanks for that, Nick. So how about yourself, Tom?
Again, there's like a Florida trip connection, but I didn't go on it. My uncle and his family went on it and brought me back a souvenir Miami Dolphins baseball cap. With it being a baseball cap, I thought it was a baseball team. But I just thought, the colour's cool. I'll wear the hat. Later that year, Christmas came around, and I got the Joe Montana video game for Christmas that year. I'll have been 9 or 10 years old, and I thought, okay, I don't know anything about this, but it looks fun. There's a lot of running around and bashing and stuff, so that's everything a young lad wants in a video game, isn't it? And I thought, okay, I need to figure out which team I'm going to play as, and I was scrolling through the teams, and I'm like, oh, there's the team from my hat. Okay, I didn't know that was American football, but I'll just be that team. And similar to Nick, it was like then from the game became aware of the highlights on Channel 4, and I thought, oh, okay, our like Miami Dolphins uniforms look really nice as well. So I'm actually interested. Didn't really have much of a clue what was going on in the game because I was only a kid, but it just kind of started from there. And similar to Owyn, it started out just thinking, oh, I'll follow the results. I don't really get the game too much, but I'm kind of half invested in how the Dolphins do, which was usually badly. And probably 2010 sort of era, 2009, 2010, I started thinking, okay, I'll watch highlights and really follow it. And ever since then, like you lads have said, pretty much perpetual disappointment. But once you've picked your team, you can't cheat. And every sport I follow a team, I always pick a team that are perpetually terrible.
The same.
So it's I'm just used to it.
So come on then, Tom. Who's your other teams? Let's see if we can compare, because I can guarantee I can beat you with at least one of them.
So soccer is Darlington, who you definitely won't beat Darlington for the tragedy story. We were in what's the equivalent of League Two forever, and eventually went bust and had to start again from like the minnow leagues, and we're now settled around the National League North, and it's just sort of mid-table and disappointment every season. And kind of like the Dolphins, we had a season this year, but a bit like the Dolphins in 2023, where it looked like, oh, this is finally going to be the year, and it wasn't. And I suppose ice hockey, the Pittsburgh Penguins, I follow them, and they've had a couple of good seasons since I've half followed ice hockey. So
ice hockey was going to be the one I was going to think, because I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan.
Oh yeah, see, they would have been my team. I had family in Vancouver, but
Yeah.
But
they were the worst team in the league this year. I think they were the worst team in the league this year.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant! Yeah.
Anybody else got any really bad other sports teams that they support?
Wow, Leyton Orient for myself. I might live in Edinburgh now, but you can probably tell by my voice I'm not a native Scot.
Really?
East End, East End of London, and my dad was a Leyton Orient fan. My grandfather was a Leyton Orient fan. So yeah, and I've been to Darlington a couple of times, including once to the new stadium when it was built by someone who was like a bank robber or something. I seem to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, George Reynolds. He's not with us anymore, but yeah, he was a famous safe cracker turned multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
Didn't he sign like Tino Asprilla or something at one point?
No, Tino Asprilla used him to get a bit of headlines, and then jumped on a plane and signed for a rich team in Qatar. He actually paraded around the stadium before a game against Carlisle in midweek, and he's like waving at the fans and doing tricks with the football, and secretly he's thinking, "There's absolutely no chance I'm signing for this lot."
So, how about you? I mean, now I've got to ask. Obviously, Welsh connection. Is it rugby as well? Is it rugby as well?
Yeah. Have a guess. And we're soccer team I support. Then have a guess. Go on, have a little.
And I
won't be happy.
I'm going to be Swansea.
There we are. I mean, it's not bad being a Swans fan, you know what I mean? But like that drop off in the Premier League was just, and then not being able to get back, out to the Championship has been just hell for the last couple of years for us. And it's like, but same thing. It's kind of like I was born into it. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, and it's kind of been gruesome team after gruesome team for me. Like, with the Dolphins and then Swans. There's never that. Is there the season that comes and it's just a drop off?
Yeah, it's quite brutal. I'm a Derby fan, so I totally understand the coming out of the Premier League and then struggling and kind of not having to deal with all of that. And of course, Derby and Swansea forever inextricably linked with the Ferry Boda transfer story that happened, where we were trying to sign him for about 3 years, I think it was, and then he was just massively injured, and it just never happened. But anyway, enough about the round ball. We're turning everybody off. So okay,
fair play for everybody supporting the local team, though.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff, lads.
True. So, right, okay. So, so it was obviously the draft last weekend. Obviously, the guys we had our chat going ahead of the podcast, and there was quite a few of us in there, sort of burning the midnight oil, as it were, sort of waiting for the draft picks and everything else like that. I think sort of 2 consecutive 4 a.m. finishes was a little bit rough for me at my age. I did struggle I don't know if I've even caught up yet, to be perfectly honest. I'm still struggling, but it was obviously good. Obviously, the amount of picks that we had, obviously 13 picks is kind of the most that I think the joint most that any team had, and the most that we've certainly had for a long while. So we kind of took sort of the few trades up and down and everything else. So just to run through the names that we got, the first pick at pick 12 was Caden Proctor, offensive tackle. Pick 27, Chris Johnson, cornerback. Pick 43, Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker. Pick 75, Caleb Douglas, wide receiver. Probably one of the more controversial ones, pick 87, Will Kazmarek, the tight end. Then we had 94 was Chris Bell, another wide receiver. Edge, Trey Moore at 130. Linebacker stroke safety, Carl Lewis at 138. Michael Tarfay, another safety at 158. Kevin Coleman, another wide receiver at 177. A very interesting pick, Seydou Traore, tight end at 180, which I'm sure we'll talk about him, given he's a bit of a record breaker for at least one reason. DJ Campbell, O-line at number 200. Max Llewellyn, edge rusher at 238. And then we'll go to the UDFAs later. So lots of players incoming. Lots of talk about on some of the other podcasts that I kind of follow about the ability to effectively coach as many rookies that we've got. 13 rookies is obviously a very high number to kind of integrate into your side. But given we've got no players, basically, we didn't really have much of a choice. So we're kind of left with that. So let's start. Offensive tackle Caden Proctor was taken at number 12 after a trade down with the Cowboys. So just to give a few key stats on Proctor, first of all, 20 years old, rather short at 6'7", not very heavy, 352 pounds. Nickname is Crispy because of his love of Krispy Kreme donuts. I think the thing that I've heard is kind of he made the freak list of athletic prospects, and very much a sort of, I think fair to say, a bit of a surprise. I don't think any of us were expecting to hear him off the board at that point, especially with, we've got to mention it, Caleb Downs being available at number 11. So take it away, guys. How did we feel? Well, I know how some of us felt when it happened. I think my response was, "What? Why?" I have to say before that was my initial response. Having kind of done a bit more research and a bit more in-depth analysis with him, I'd have to say I'm pretty pleased with the pick. I can't complain too much. I think I've looked at some of the tape and some of the film, and man, this guy is a beast, an absolute beast, and I mean that in the nicest possible way if he's watching. I think he's. I think one of the things that we'll come to probably pretty much with a lot of these picks is Sully and Hafley's statement earlier in the season about fast gets slow but big doesn't get small, and the athletic profile of a lot of these players is very much the sort of the most athletically gifted players, which I think we all probably agree we've been a bit soft for a few years, so it's good. So yeah, what do we think, guys? I don't know who wants to take this one first off.
I love it and hate it in equal measure, and to a certain extent that is a typical Miami Dolphins first round draft pick. What's the point of just knocking it out of the park, for a home run straight away? I've watched a couple of the Alabama games last year, and the one thing that you notice about him is if he's going to make a mistake, it's going to be in the second half of the game. He gets tired, and he's 350, 360, possibly 370 pounds. Alabama's hot, same as, in fact, obviously Miami, where we play, is even hotter. He's going to have to keep that weight down. When he plays well, he is, as you said, he is an absolute beast. 350, 360 pounds. Not many people are going to move it, particularly now playing as guard, because I don't know if you saw that today. It was announced that he won't start as a tackle. He's going to start as a guard. So he's not going to be out there on an island on his own. It's that the left side of that line with Patrick Paul there's a lot of flesh, and it's not going to be easy to move. It's really not going to be easy to move. There's a lot of humanity
on that side of the line.
A hell of a lot, yeah. If he
I Sorry to interrupt you. I'm really interested to see just the visual of those two guys running and 18 running behind them. It's going to look hilarious. It's just going to look like there's a kid playing on the field. It's going to be brilliant.
Throw in what's his name? Kamachek, the tight end, the blocking tight end that we drafted in the 3rd round, who they're already talking about playing is the H-back. I mean, if he's playing on that side as well, then it's going to be a literal wall.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go on?
Yeah, no, crack on. Honestly, I got some things. I
had the same reaction as Mark initially, not because I was disappointed with Proctor, because I didn't dream that Caleb Downs was still going to be there. I put Caleb Downs and Ruben Bain in my thing of keep an eye on, because trades can happen. Bad teams might reach for playmakers when they should just take the best player, which happened. And at least one really good player might fall out of the top 10. 2 of them did. Well, 3 of them did. And I was like, okay. The guy I initially thought might be the person that fell to us was Spencer Farnu, who went already. The player I thought the Dolphins might pick if they were thinking replace Jalen Waddle, because it might be seen that they've stitched up Malik Willis, was Jordan Tyson, who already went. And I'm like, oh, perfect. Like Caleb Downs and Ruben Bain, you can't really miss with either one of them. I really wanted Caleb Downs. They made the trade, and you think, oh, well, look, there's still another one of them there. And then they come with Proctor, and you're like, exactly what Nick said. I'm like, I'm not disappointed about Proctor being on the team, but that we've passed up 2 really good players to take him. But then you look at the guy and you think, what have the Dolphins' problems been the last 5 years, with Tua getting flattened every 5 minutes? And we've been crying out for build from the trenches, build a proper offensive line and stop stitching quarterbacks up. And this is exactly what that is, isn't it? And putting him next to Patrick Paul, by the way, and having that guy as your mentor, who subsequently had Teron Armstead as his mentor, I think that's a really good move, because he's going to be, in the nicest way possible, Austin Jackson too, he's going to be on Proctor, just be like, mate, you could be one of the all-time greats in the league. Take it seriously. You know, it's a long off season. You can eat all you want in the off season. Work hard, and he's pretty much.
I think that's the point. I think that's the big point for me is kind of, you said there, is eating. I'd be interested to know, Nick, those 2 Alabama games that you mentioned, were they early season or were they late season?
Now that's a question. I couldn't tell you. I know I watched a couple of games, and he got tired.
The only reason I asked was I noticed something today, actually, as I was looking, kind of prepping for today, that he missed all of the practice sort of rotations in spring last year due to, I think it was a shoulder injury. And I don't know whether there's a bit of a consensus that may have contributed to him. I think he started the season over 370 and all of those sorts of things. I know he's said he's committed to get to whatever weight any team wants him to and stay at that. But I was just interested whether it might have been early season.
I couldn't tell you when they were. It was at some point in the season, which is stupid to say, but I think in the long term he looks like the type of guy that's going to be a success just because of how big he is. He's going to be very difficult to move. He may have a problem of moving people. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't the sexy pick. And right now in this rebuild, I think that was probably the correct pick.
Yeah, that's what I landed on after digesting the passing on Downs was, that's the type of pick you make when you're fairly confident that both of your trenches are worth moving forward with, because ultimately a safety is not much use if you're just getting run through on the one side and you're having to replace your quarterback 3 weeks in, like we have the last 5 or 6 years, because the offensive line are like 5 turnstiles.
Yeah, I was going to say as well about Alabama. I was going to say about Nick Saban. He come out saying about that his motivation wasn't good enough as a starter. So that's my worry, is that is he going to be motivated coming into the NFL now? If he's this is my worry about him, is like his condition, his weight. You said about him getting tired later on in the games. I wasn't happy with the pick when I saw it, because he's got a severely high ceiling. You know what? Really high. You know, we become kind of maybe one of the best guys in the league. You don't know. You know what could happen to you. But his slow is so low. Do you mean he could be? It's so low, and it's such a 50-50 pick. There's no like, okay, he could be mid, and middle. He could be all right. Do you know what I mean? As long as he's there, he's got depth in the team. But there's either he's going to be succeed or there's going to be down there. That's what I've got with him, and there's no middle ground. You know, he's got to keep the weight off. He's got to keep the conditioning up. He's got to keep the attitude going, because as simple as Hafley said, he said he wants players to play for the Dolphins, not mess around like they did with McDaniel. Because he wasn't a leader, and we said that. Hafley's come in now. He's got rid of the players that weren't motivated and weren't part of the team. But, you don't want to bring more of those, like, what's it called? The locker room cancers, like, Jim. You don't want that. You want players being too big for their boots. And that's why I worry about this pick, because I had Bain, and I'd be honest, I know about he was such like a, out there pick with his arms and all that stuff. But I feel like Bain has that grittiness, and I feel like Hafley would have, if Hafley got his hands all around him, I get his arms, I get this, but he is a football player, and that's why and I get we need to build the trenches, but I also don't think we have another solid edge rusher from Chop, in my opinion. And I get we're building the line. Do you know what I mean? I can agree 100%. But I feel there was better players there to take, and I feel like he would have dropped, and you could have traded up, in my opinion. That's what I think you could have got.
I consider edge to be as like on the same level as trenches as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Guys who can get after the quarter, and to be honest, Chop's been a bit underwhelming as well. So it's not like we've got one absolute stud and nobody on the other side. It's like the one guy we've got is capable but not necessarily consistent. So that was a big call to pass on him for. But I just today, just before we started this, actually saw you guys might have seen it before me, but just the moment when he gets the phone call that he's going to be picked, and Hafley seems really just absolutely, you were always the pick. Like, even if one of the other tackles was there, and we talked about this before, and you really impressed us and can't wait to get to work. So he's obviously sold Hafley, and Hafley, like you say, he is the furthest thing from a Mike McDaniel type.
Yeah.
Vibes and sunglasses.
Yeah, always way. Yeah.
Let's go out.
The key thing is you don't have to watch his press conference on 1.5 times speed, which is always
I mean, he was clearly the pick. He wouldn't have done that trade but without him being the pick. There was no because it wasn't the sexy pick. We basically got two 5-round picks for nothing, really, because we were always going to pick it. We could have probably gone down to 16 or 17. I mean, to be fair, Proctor was. I mean, Cleveland at one point were being he was linked with Cleveland at number 6. So I mean, he could have gone even higher, but it was such a weird. After the first couple of picks, there was a couple of shockers. Nobody expected the running back to go at 3, or well, certainly I didn't. Defensive players dropped down that little bit lower than we anticipated. Now, I was never a Ruben Bain fan. I truly believe the T-Rex arms are going to be a problem in the future for him. Okay. But I was a Caleb Downs fan.
Yeah, that was hard, because he's proper Minka Fitzpatrick level. He could be a first, unbelievable.
If not better.
Yeah. And it's hard to pass on those ones where you unless serious injury right away, like Chase Young style, it's pretty hard to see him not being a runaway safety.
It's quite funny. The only person I've seen, I'm sure you guys watched some of the American pods the same. The only person I've seen that has any doubts over Downs being anything other than a perennial All-Pro safety is Omar Kelly.
He's got doubts about everything, though, hasn't he?
I say now, admittedly, he is possibly the most negative person in the world when it comes to the Dolphins. However, he's the only guy who kind of looks at it and says that I've really seen that's kind of said, is he feels that he may not live up to the potential. So it will be interesting to see. And I'm sure that if he doesn't and he has a terrible, terrible season, Omar will be reminding us of it probably every week on this podcast. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think you're right, Nick. What you said, and you're in as well. I think the thing with a lot of the picks, I think pretty much probably all of them, with the exception of maybe when Malachi Fields got taken, I think every one of the players is who they wanted to pick, and they picked their players that they wanted at those positions when they saw, okay, they might be off the board before the next one. We'll take them now. It might be high, but we're not really bothered. We've got the conviction. These are the guys that we want, and I think that's probably what they've got. So we better move swiftly on to pick 2. I think what we'll probably do, looking at the time, is we'll maybe do the first couple of rounds for the bigger players, and then we'll highlight kind of any other things that you want to say about the others. So moving on, Chris Johnson was the cornerback taken at pick number 27 after we traded up this time, which is always nice because I have a feeling that the Bills were going to take him, and we jumped ahead of them, stole their player, and I must admit I had a little bit of a chuckle when they then traded out of the first round entirely and just
sent them running.
Yeah. I have to say I did like that. Sorry, Bills fans, but it was quite funny.
We need some sort of win over them, don't we?
We do. So Caleb Johnson, again, athletically, very, very, very excellent prospect. I think he's in the 93rd percentile in terms of cornerbacks from his relative athletic score over the past, obviously, 4 decades that's been going. 6'4", 193 pounds. He's only 21 again, so another youngster. I think, again, really pleased with this pick. Again, other cornerbacks on the board that people perhaps thought might have been taken. Obviously, Jamad McCoy slipped quite a long way because of his injury potential, and I feel that's probably why. But again, I do kind of wonder whether they'd have even gone for him anyway. Again, it feels like these picks are who they wanted, so that's what they've gone for. The really interesting thing that I wanted to kind of highlight with Johnson, 2 things: a good and a bad. The good, he had a 16.1 passer rating against him last season. That's like one of the lowest ever. 44 tackles, 9 pass breakups, 4 interceptions when he was targeted, and a forced fumble on 600 odd snaps, which is historically elite in terms of the stats. The bad side of it, being from San Diego State, he never really played against anybody that you would necessarily say were elite college players or elite prospects to go to the NFL. So if that's the only downside on him that I can see, really, is potentially the competition that he's faced. That feels, for me, the only kind of doubt. What's he going to be like when he's stepping up a level? But I did also note with interest as well that he chose San Diego State over Boston College as one of the other colleges that he had. I don't know whether it would have been around the time that Jeff Hafley was there, but did make me wonder whether Haf had been tracking him pretty much since then to kind of do that. But yeah, so Chris Johnson, the second pick in the first round. Take it away. Let's go Tom first.
Yeah, so I sent you what I think the Dolphins will do, what I would do, and then other players that might be in the mix. And Chris Johnson was one of my in the mix players. I had Colton Hood as the guy, but it was really Avian Terrell was the other one. Any of those 3, I would have been happy with for different reasons. But when they took him, it made me feel better about the Proctor pick earlier. So I'm like, okay, we've addressed cornerback, but not only that, watching him play, and you just quoted his stats, the way he plays, he reminds me so much of the way Xavier Howard played, which is a little bit dangerous at times. But I feel like looking at his combine, he's fast despite being like kind of a bigger built corner. And like he looks taller than he is. I thought he was like 6'2", but it turns out he's only 6 foot. But he looks huge next to a lot of like guys that he covers. But he does that thing where he'll, rather than be a coverage corner, he'll kind of give them a little bit to make the quarterback think, "Oh, I've got him over the top." And then when the ball's in the air, he'll close the gap and undercut the route. And that it just reminded me so much of Xavier Howard, and the plays on the ball, like the 50-50 stuff. Like Mark said, he hasn't played against elite college players, which it's a huge step up to do that against NFL players. But just like his physicals and I don't think the speed and the athleticism will be that much of a problem for him. And
4.40, I think he did.
Exactly. So he can do that thing where he can give even a really good receiver a bit of a start and bait a throw and stuff. And I feel like with the type of defensive plays we've taken, it's given me the 2020 Flores defense kind of. We'll get burned at times, but we're gonna take the ball away a lot, and he's gonna be a big part of that, I think.
Excellent. Owen, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, you are. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. No, I'm happy. I was happy with that one. You know, I didn't really have much to say much about it. I was going to say about X being similar. I said like Boho. His place is so similar to X when I see it. Like you said, he looks like he's coming off the man, then he comes back and swoops in, and it's like you could see it in the film, you see it in the tape. He done it in a couple of videos I watched on it as highlights. But he's a bigger cornerback than you usually have. And, he reminds me of like Rasul Douglas, we had him last year, and I think, he may have had a couple of bad games, but he was decent for what we had. And he was bigger, and I feel like sometimes a bigger corner is better for what you're going against in this league now. There's a lot of bigger receivers coming in, I would have, like I said later on in the draft, I would have liked to see them make a shot at McCoy to have maybe a little bit smaller to, go into the slots, into the, inside. But other than that, I was happy with it. You said whatever what Tom said was literally I agree with everything he said. Do you know what I mean? That's what I was going to say about X and just how physical he is. And he's a physical man-to-man receiver, and that's what you need with the Dolphins. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like the next step is to have a safety there to help over the top with him as well. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I feel like we need right now is that back help and maybe that pass rush we don't have too much of right now either.
Interested on the pass rush. I am kind of diverting off the script here, but I am quite interested to see how Ajabo and Uche are going to fit in. I mean, Uche, especially production-wise, a few years back was incredibly productive. And you kind of think if we can get back to that. And I did also notice as well, I think they went to the same college. I think Uche was Ajabo's mentor, and I think Ajabo has been one of the draft picks mentors and things like that as well, which again, culture-wise, which obviously we've kind of, has been a bit of an issue for us over the past few years. Bringing in players, obviously the amount of it's kind of funny when you go through the picks that we made, you notice kind of how many of them have perhaps been at the same school, or have perhaps played together, or have perhaps played together with a key person on the team at the minute, which we'll come on to with Rodriguez and, sort of the Red Raiders with Jordan Brooks and stuff like that. This culture element, I think, seems to be kind of really, really prevalent in the way that the guys are doing things. And I'll be interested to see kind of whether that perhaps boosts these boom or bust free agents that we've got, like, maybe to have a little bit more of an impact. But sorry, I'm digressing there. But cheers for that, Owen. Cheers for that, Tom. Nick, how yourself?
Great pick. My only worry is, as you already mentioned, is a small school. I checked on it. He hasn't the people he played against in 24 and 25. Not a single player from those teams on offenses have been picked up in the NFL. So he has not faced a wide receiver or a quarterback that has been good enough to play in the NFL for the last 2 years. His production's brilliant. His measurables are all there. The uncoachables are all there. The height, the size, the weight, everything like that, all brilliant. There is a slight caveat, is the quality of the people he has played against. Again, I think it's a good pick. Don't expect him to be perfect this season. he's a rookie cornerback in the NFL. He's going to get burnt a few times, but I think he looks like somebody that might be 2-3 years down the line when hopefully this team is ready to start competing again, because this is not a 1-year rebuild. This is not New England last year. This is a multi-year rebuild. I think give it 2 or 3 seasons, he should be an absolute lockdown cornerback.
And that's the beauty of being in the position we're in now, as much as you never want to be going into a season inevitably knowing you're going to lose a lot more games than you're going to win. But the players that you take in this draft don't have to hit the ground running. Like Spionire and Kenneth Grant got a lot of stick last year because people were expecting them to be top-notch right out of the gate. And it's tough. It takes a couple of years, especially like you say with Johnson coming in, having never played against that level of opposition. But you could definitely coach somebody like that up and give him that experience the first year with no pressure. It's like, look, nobody expects us to win. Just be disciplined and learn every time.
I think one of the things for me that I'm kind of looking to. I'm very much I think you learn more by playing, and I think some of these guys, perhaps with hopefully not to the detriment of their confidence, but I think these players, they're going to play a lot of reps, no matter because of the lack of roster that we've got. I think they're going to play. They're going to learn the hard way. But if you can keep them positive and let them know that these are learning experiences, I think that can only benefit. So obviously I think all pretty unanimous. That's a pretty good pick. So fairly certain this one's going to be pretty popular with everybody. So pick number 43, linebacker Jacob Rodriguez, the Texas Tech Red Raider. I love college football names. The Texas Tech Red Raider, 23 years old, 6'1", 231 pounds, relative athletic score of 9.61. Another elite athlete. So my key takeaways here, and I'm not going to steal them all because I'm fairly certain that other people will have a few. So I'm going to pick a couple of the ones that I found that are perhaps not so thing. Like the guy was an All-American last year selection, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, a host of awards. I mean, I must admit, holding my hands up, I don't even know what some of these are, but the Bednarik, Butkus, Nagarsky, and the Lombardi Award winner. I mean, that's like some very big names, massive sort of awards. Captain for 2 seasons, and he's the green dot player. He runs the defense. And I've got to say, as I'm sure we'll agree. What a mustache! What a mustache! So yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be, obviously Will seems to be his best position, kind of back in the backfield and kind of roaming around, elite instincts in that sense. But I'm going to let's go with Owen. What's your thoughts?
I wrote that on my notes and I said Josh Allen's worst nightmare. Honestly, I put that straight. I said Josh Allen's worst nightmare. As much as he loves a breakout, he is going to be there. He's like now, like they're Matt Milano for us. Like that's what it feels like to me. And how much I hate Matt Milano, I hope Rodriguez is that for them now. And I just said like the forced fumbles. Do you know what I mean? It's that football IQ on him is insane. He's got such a high ceiling. It's like I could be more happy with the pick, and then pairing him up with Brooks as well. Like that's going to be the mentoring off that is going to be insane. And I'm pretty sure they went to the same college, I'm right as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, same college as well. And I said like he's a coach's like just dream. He's there, and it's like I said about his what I said was funny to my father was but his wife's actually cooler than him.
Black Hawk chocolate pilot was she or something?
Yeah, but just running through him now for the season and stuff. He was a steal in the second round. I think. I feel he could have been a first round player in my opinion. But yeah, he's just. I won't take him anywhere else. I know there's a lot more to say, but I rather send it out to you. But like, yeah, it's. I'm more the world where I was when I saw it. Honestly, but yeah.
Yeah. Nick, your thoughts?
Well, it was the first thing that I didn't watch this one live. I was busy on Friday night. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and watched it as live on replay.
We were all very excited in the chat. We were all very excited.
I saw that, and there were so many people talking about Zach Thomas. Obviously, everybody wants that connect. Everyone, wants that connection. Obviously, Texas Tech and all of that. So. I'm going to disagree on one thing, though. I think his biggest problem is that 70s porn star Tash. That is a horrific thing that needs to go.
You've not got the facial hair, Nick. You've not got the facial.
I know.
We've all got the hair. We're all going to be fans. You're you're preaching to the wrong people, I'm afraid.
I grew one once for Movember for charity, and I looked like somebody you would take your children away from. So I've never grown a facial hair ever again. So no, I just don't like the tash. Other than that, that was the Grand Slam home run. That was the greatest pick. That's possibly the best pick that Miami have picked in 20 years in the draft. I thought it was tremendous.
Yeah. I think it's the only one that I can never kind of really recall. Everybody. I've not seen anybody anywhere say anything bad about this pick. Everybody was excited. I was watching Dougley Durong's kind of live stream. He was stoked and like jumping around and everything else like that. And I say we were all like going wild in the chat. I think. I've not seen anybody anywhere kind of give any sort of negative, not even a whisper of a negative comment. Even most people do like the moustache, I'm afraid, Nick. You're the only person that said that. So,
I would say more importantly, it's not just Dolphins fans.
Yeah.
You watch the league, you watch the other fans. They loved the pick, not for us, but they wanted him. I think it was 32 teams in the NFL wanted him. Very much as Owyn said, I was really surprised that he didn't go that bit higher. Yeah. Maybe not first round higher. I couldn't believe that he got down to us. I really like when I was watching it, obviously I didn't know at this point, and it was just like, is he going to drop? Is he going to drop? And he did. And just fantastic.
The fact we didn't even have to trade up as well. Because obviously we were reluctant to do that after we already did at the end of the first. But it was one of those. I put asterisks next to him when I was doing my notes because I put my pick as Derek Moore because of just purely positional value, and that's the only reason Rodriguez got as deep as he did, because people want their edge rushers and the offensive linemen and the big playmakers if they lack them, like on the receivers and stuff, which I think is a terrible idea. Like we learned that from Jalen Waddle and what you could have had in like round 3 and 4 of that draft at the same position. But teams continue to take receivers and running backs really, really early and leave players like Jacob Rodriguez on the board to the middle of the second round. But everybody's kind of already said it. But what Owyn said, just the forced fumbles, it's crazy numbers. I'm thinking they're typos. The amount of like forced fumbles he's having in single seasons and interceptions as well. He reminds me like Andrew Van Ginkel, but without the missed tackles. Gets to the guy super quick, but where AVG, and to be fair, he's cleaned that up as soon as he left us, which is the story of Dolphins fans, ex-players, always seems to happen. But a lot of
one of my favourite modern day players, AVG.
I was gutted when he went. That was one of them that made me think, that's now we're starting to see how not pragmatic the Chris Greer rebuild was with some of the lads that we had to let walk because of the contract situations. But God, it's pretty much perfect, isn't it? Like the value, the guy that he's going in next to, like Owyn said, like those two in the middle of the park.
I mean, you think, I almost feel like they're going to be arguing with each other over who gets to tackle the players, because I think the last 2 seasons, 2024, 126 tackles for Rodriguez. 2025, he actually beat that, 128 tackles. Like I say 7 forced fumbles last year. I mean, off one person. I mean, that's just incredible. 4 interceptions. Yeah. I mean, there's just nothing more to say about the guy other than I think he's going to be
It might be a tactic to just have the defensive line part and just let him. If we need a turnover late in the game, just get out his way and just let Jacob handle it.
So that's why we don't need any edge rushers. We're just going to let everybody run through the middle and straight into Rodriguez. That's what it is. So right, okay. So that was obviously our second round pick. So what I think we'll do now, obviously we're already at 50 minutes, so maybe like 10, 15 minutes or so. I don't want to keep everybody all night. So our third round picks, going back to Texas Tech Red Raiders, was Caleb Douglas, the tight end, Will Kazmarek, and is that it? And Chris Bell, another wide receiver. So 2 wide receivers taken in the third round, and a tight end. It's probably a bit of a surprise. Those that sort of combination in the third. Obviously, I think Kazmarek, we all kind of know, best blocking tight end in college. We all kind of know where he's going to be playing. And again, big, strong. This is obviously the profile that we're going for. Thoughts on Caleb Douglas before Chris Bell?
The injury. The only reason why Bell wasn't in the first round is the injury, the ACL. Without that, he was a first round pick.
Yeah.
So I've got no problem with that order. In fact, there's a lot of hate about Caleb Douglas because of the consensus big board. You know, he was possibly 100 picks before us. It doesn't matter. Sullivan had, or the Dolphins had their own board. That's, this is their draft. This is not the so-called experts. The so-called experts get it wrong every year. Half the first round picks will be busts. He has all the uncoachables. 6'4", over 200 pounds, 33-inch long arms. He goes up high for high balls in the end zone. He comes down with them. I don't understand the hate on this. Just because he wasn't on a big board, or he was lower down on the big board. Also, the other thing,
40 as well. 4.39 40.
Yeah. The other thing that I love about him, he only ever played in the slot, and we've got no other wide receivers that really play there. So, he has been picked to do a job. He has been drafted to do a job.
Yeah.
Let them listen. In 3 years' time, if he doesn't work out, if he's a bust, fine. We can slag him off then. At least give him a chance.
Yeah, let him disappoint you first.
Yeah, yes.
I've looked at some of his tape, and when I kind of read stuff about the pick before kind of watching the tape, there was a lot of conversation about kind of he's had a few drops, and he doesn't really kind of. I think the most bizarre thing was his vertical jump at the combine was like the lowest 10th percentile, which, given that he's obviously 6'4", was really crazy. But to be fair, he doesn't need to jump. He literally just puts his arm up, and that's all he needs to do. But some of the things that he's done, when you watch some of the film, like the ability to make those catches. I mean, to me, it looked like he's actually perfectly capable of making contested catches. And
he does.
When he does, he's gone, and that's about that. He looks like he's shifty. He looks like he's got good route running. He looks like he's got a bit of twitch to him, a bit of skill. From what I've seen, when I started looking at the film after the pick, because I must admit it wasn't massively on my radar. People like Ted Hurst and things like that were. I was kind of expecting, from what everybody had said, like I say, to kind of be a bit like, I'm going to be a bit underwhelmed by this guy. But I watched the film, I was like, you know what? I've got no complaints with him. He looks quality. It reminds me of kind of like maybe like a Nico Collins, or sort of that sort of big-bodied receiver, but maybe a little bit what Nick Westbrook-Akine should have been if he'd have performed to the level that he did when he was in Tennessee, wasn't he? But yeah, no, I've got no issues with it.
Yeah, I feel the same, especially given that they doubled down on it with the Chris Bell pick later. I would have been happy with Chris Bell in round 2. Obviously, did the right thing, taking Rodriguez. But I exactly what Nick said. He's an easy first round receiver if he didn't take the injury in college. But this is exactly the profile of draft I was hoping. Not the players I predicted were wrong, but the positions, offensive line, DB, and not so much an edge rusher, but a playmaking guy who's going to flatten quarterbacks and running backs. And then bulk up, you give Malik Willis some options in the third round, because how often do you see third, fourth, fifth round receivers turn out to be all pros? Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill are all like late or mid to late picks, and you think that's bulk up there, and we did took two pass catchers there, blocking tight ends, so that we've done a really good job of going from absolutely nothing on offense to suddenly that's an offense that Malik Willis is going to think, I'm going to have a fair chance to prove myself here. We're not going to win games, but he can still lock down I'm the future quarterback for this team without winning games straight away. And we've given him a really good chance with these guys, especially when Bell comes back. That's a decent one too. And it's the Green Bay profile of receiver, isn't it? Big lads, vertical threats, rather than the guys who are going to burn somebody straight off the line. And like us, you've got a totally different type of quarterback.
Yeah, I think, and like I say, you'd hope a better O-line this year, with, Willis to kind of, escape from out of misdirection with Achane. I was a bit of an Ollie Gordon fan as well last year. He didn't really kind of perform thingy, but I think he has still got the potential to be good. And then, like I say, you look at the receivers that we've got. I mean, I didn't really hate the free agent signings of Tolbert and Atwell. Tutu Atwell I've always been kind of a little bit of a fan of. So added those in with the wide receivers that we've got in the draft. Like I say, there shouldn't be, Dulcich. I'm a big fan of Dulcich. I think he did really well last year. I'm really glad we kind of retained him. Yeah. He's got, Willis is going to have some weapons to people to throw to, and everything else like that. So, like I say, it's all about giving him the best chance and seeing what we've got with him. And then if in a year he's not the guy, we'll probably be picking in the top three, the year after. So anybody out of the remaining players, Trey Moore, Kyle Lewis, Michael Tafe, Kevin Coleman Jr., another wide receiver as well, a quicker, smaller profile, Seydou Traore, DJ Campbell, and Max Llewellyn. Anybody else that kind of is really sort of a bit of an under the radar that you think could be a big contributor for us this season?
DJ Campbell started pretty much constantly for Texas, didn't he? Especially like the last couple of years. Anytime you can get a starter at a big college that late in the draft, if he's not. We look like we've got our starters locked down on the offensive line, but that's the sort of depth that, like back in Liam Eichenberg and Jesse Davis were our depth a couple of years ago. So, having a proper offensive line depth and getting a bargain like that, somebody who started at a really good college, I actually think he'll play quite a bit. Or he definitely could if we need him to.
Played all 16 games last year. In 2024, played all 16 games. Finished in his career 43 consecutive starts at right guard, over 2,600 offensive snaps, which, like you say, for a top college, is kept his quarterback remarkably clean.
He has to come in, wouldn't you? You'd think, okay, he's got a bit of experience for a rookie.
I think the thing is, like we were saying a little bit about the opposite way with Chris Johnson. The good things here, let's have a look. 34-inch arms, sneaky long, eyes never panic in pass protection, picks up late twisting linebackers and looping ends. 43 games at right guard, many of them against quality defensive fronts. Almost feels like it might be a little bit if Savonaya doesn't kind of progress with what they've said of him starting at right guard. He's kind of there. And again, talking about the competition, kept his quarterback remarkably clean as a senior despite facing every opponent's best interior rush. And he was playing against top players.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a steal, isn't it, that late in the draft?
Definitely.
I mean, also you've got to remember it's the Miami Dolphins offensive line. You can't expect it to stay healthy all year long.
Yeah.
We're going to have some injuries. Yeah. And when you watch him play, Oh my God, he is like an octopus. Those arms, they look ridiculous. They're honestly, he's got more than two. I'm sure of it. He seems to have arms everywhere. Again, I think it's one of these picks that I think we're going to see the best of him 3 years down the line. I don't think he's a year one starter. I think he gets a few snaps this year. Kind of learns how to play in the NFL. I could see him turning into in 3 years' time being a starting guard, particularly once that Proctor moves. We imagine that he's going to move from guard this year to tackle next year.
Yeah.
So I think we could see him starting, but it won't be this year. I think he could be an absolute steal.
Okay. Owen, you mentioned earlier about safety help over the top for Johnson. Thoughts on Kyle Lewis and Michael Tarfay? And then do you think they're going to kind of give you what you need?
I feel they type of players that a lot of these picks I see now, they just kind of players you tuck at a wall and see what sticks. This is what you're looking at right now. These are the players that it's so time could tell for me. They could obviously come out of college, but it's just that I can have to take full advantage of him. I do like Kyle Lewis a lot. I've seen what his tape. I do like him. I do think he's a good player. I haven't looked at much of Taffy, but I was going to bring in a minute ago, wasn't it, with the tight ends. I do like the tight ends a lot. I like Capmarak, if you say his name. I like, if that's how you say his name, he reminds me of like a Durham Smythe, where he's a good blocking tight end. He's reliable. He's not going to be a big receiving tight end that you wanted, but that's why you bring someone in like Traore later on in the draft, who's so just, it's raw talent. But if you can get the right hands around that talent, it's just, it's sky's the limit with him. Do you mean? But like,
I'm pleased you mentioned Traore actually, because I wanted to quote him. History maker, the first ever international player pathway program drafted to the NFL, which is nice. Obviously, from your neck of the woods, Nick, as well. From France originally, but then from your neck of the woods. And you're right, Owen. He looks, sort of it feels a little bit like looks the part. It feels like we've got the blocking tight end in Kaczmarek. We've got Dortches who can do a little bit of both, and then Traore who's going to be stretch the field tight end and everything else like that. Which, again, options and those sorts of things. But I think you're right on that one, Owen.
See, I can see him being a little bit like Gesicki. I think he's going to play. I think you're going to see him playing in the slot, possibly in four wide receiver formations. I don't think he's going to be like a hands down on the turf, like inline tight end. I think we're going to see a slightly different thing from him.
Yeah, if he's got hands though, it's pretty much an open competition for pass catching. Whether it's pass catching tight ends, I know we've got Dulcich who can do a bit of everything as well. But receivers wise, and like any help that we can get from the tight end guys, like jumping into the slot like Gesicki used to, and he was one of the picks that we got off the Cowboys in that trade, wasn't he? So it was the sort of thing you can take a bit of a punt on upside.
Taking him on now. That's good. Okay. So that kind of probably covers from. I would say obviously there's a couple of other people in the draft. I mean, what was his name? Llewellyn, the edge, I think is quite highly rated as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. But like I say, when you get down that far in the draft, it's all a bit of a crapshoot anyway in terms of who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. And although as much as it is in the first round, sometimes it kind of feels.
Trey Moore's tape looked useful as well, and that was Big Wayne's pick, wasn't it, when he announced the draft pick over there in Pittsburgh? Yes. So I
was going to say that the two in the fourth round, Trey Moore and Kyle Lewis, they both intrigue me because they both look like they're tweeners. They both look like they're not really made for the NFL. Trey Moore looks, is he going to play edge? Is he actually going to play off-ball linebacker? Kyle Lewis, he's Kyle Lewis, isn't it?
Kyle Lewis, yeah.
I mean, again, 2024, first team All-American, 25, second team All-American. he hits hard. You see, he's the one, when I watched his tape, that I thought Van Ginkel. He looked just like Van Ginkel to me. He was all over the place. He does have one ever so slight issue. He's been flagged a couple of times for high hit. He is gonna have to learn that in the NFL to tackle lower.
Yeah, you can't be being a missile, can you? They'll chuck you out of the game for
exactly. Yeah,
it's egregious.
Just to, I'm glad you mentioned that one as well. Obviously, our very own Wayne Collard was presented as the International Fan of the Year, and his pick, I think it was Trey Moore, wasn't it, that he picked? Again, another one that might be a little bit of a sleeper pick. He's, in terms of athletic profile, he was the 7th best edge in the combine. So again, pretty good. Again, big college again. Played at Texas. 6.5 sacks, 10.5 tackles for loss, 9 tackles and 3 sacks in 3 playoff games. So again, against good opposition. Can't put my teeth in. So again, and this is always something that's always kind of impressive, I always feel. Moore was also named the Texas Spring Academic MVP. So you'd think he's got the intelligence, he's got a little bit of awareness, and those sorts of things. So again, maybe a sneaky sort of maybe a sneaky sleeper pick with that kind of comes through. And like I say, we've not really got any depth at edge anyway, so you might get a chance.
Well, you see, I think that was, if we're going to say one thing about this draft, I think in the negative overall, I think was the not picking up an actual edge. A real kind of I just think that was a disappointment. But I think we had too many holes on the roster for one draft.
I think Sullivan said that, didn't he? He said afterwards, we've got, we would have ideally liked to take a more prominent one. But there's that many holes to fill. We can't fix it all in one draft, basically. I think
you've got to protect your quarterback as well, haven't you? That's the main thing. Do you mean that's what you got to put in there? But I said about Trey Moore, you said about him. I think he's got potential. He's fast off. Yes. He's fast off a line like chop. There's similarities there, and if that's what Hafley wants, let him have it. And then he's got. He says he wants to get his hand on chop. That's why I feel like I've got a big season coming in for him. And if you bring in someone else who's fast off the edge, you see what kind of line they're trying to build. Do you know what I mean? They want that middle, deep, big guys coming through the middle, and they want those fast edge coming through then, just so there's nothing coming on the outside of it with the running backs, the tight ends maybe, because with who's it now? Sony was it? As we said. Who do we take now from I was trying to think now. Who do we on about just now? The linebacker.
Lewis.
With Lewis.
Rodriguez?
Yeah, Lewis. No, Lewis.
Lewis Colors.
All right, Lewis,
Yeah, playing quick off the edge. He's a fast player, and that's what you can see what he's talked down this draft now from Rodriguez. He's talking quick off the ball, linebacker, edge rushers. He's taking quick. He wants quick. That's what he wants. He wants his defense to be quick off the line. He wants to be fast. He wants to be on the ball, and that's what we haven't had as much before. There's a lot of slug players playing, but these are quick. They're hungry players, and that's what I like to be honest. Hungry. Yeah.
So it's like the size isn't if you've got like the ability to wrap people up and hit them, like none of the Jalen Phillips where he gets there and then it's like he's covered himself in baby oil and slips off them. Yeah. like these are everybody that we've described as maybe they were a bit more quick than they are big and powerful, but they're still hitters. And we haven't had like who was the fella that we had at safety who basically left the team and got on a podcast saying how soft the Dolphins were, like in terms of the coaching.
Holland, was it Javon Holland?
No, it wasn't Holland. We only had him, Deshaun Elliott.
Oh, Deshaun Elliott, sorry. Yeah.
Really good. He was that guy. He was just a nasty big hitter, like angry kind of tackler. And I love that type of player. And I think we've got a lot of them in this draft potentially.
Feels like it. Certainly feels like it.
Feels like there's a nastiness.
Yeah. We need that edge. We need that. We need that edge. We haven't had that for years, And I'm all for McDaniel. Obviously, kind of had a very very specific way of dealing with players. He had a very specific, we had obviously him and Greer we drafted a certain way, we traded a certain way and everything. And, I don't hate what they did. They tried something, it didn't really work.
It gave us a lot of moments, didn't it? There was a lot of really entertaining games and performances.
I'll never forget the Denver game as long as I live.
Yeah, 70 on it. Kills me that they didn't just kick the field goal and set the record. Because you've got that all the players, and McDaniel has that for the rest of his life. Then, because I don't think you're going to see another 70 game in a hurry, are you? The Baltimore comeback, there was some awesome moments, but just fell apart a bit too quick, didn't it?
Anybody in the UDFA class that anybody kind of has got a little bit of a might be sneaky good? I've got two. Mark Gronowski, the quarterback. I think the most successful or the most winningest quarterback in college history, which, it's only South Dakota State, but it's, it shows a winning mentality. He's 16 rushing touchdowns, most in the Big Ten. He can move, very, very minimal mistakes. A little bit surprised kind of reading his profile that, he probably wasn't high or didn't even get into being drafted. But I think he sounds like he might have a shot at certainly beating out Cam Miller for QB3 perhaps. So that'll be interesting to see. And then the other one that I got was Rennie Conga from Louisville, D lineman. Again, relative athletic score 9.78. Absolutely insane physical prospect. He 479 40, 459 shuttle. Testing numbers, he would have ranked in the top defensive tackles at the combine. I mean, why not? Why not take a punt on somebody like that? And again, these elite physical profiles of the players that they've gone for, but he sounds like he definitely might be a potential for certainly kind of practice squad, but definitely maybe an outside bet for the roster, dependent on the. Obviously, I know we drafted Biggers and Grant and everything else last year, so we've got quite a few defensive tackles, but certainly sounds like an interesting prospect to me. Anyone else for you?
There's two guys with huge injury issues. Mason Rieger, edge. He's actually been told to quit the game in the past. Many people were looking at and many people had looked at him at being a 4th or 5th round pick before the injuries. If he can come back to fitness, if he has the full movement, that could be an absolute steal. Well, it will be a steal because undrafted free agent. And Levon Moss, running back at Texas A&M, so same school as A-Chain. Again, more injuries, but looked really good when fit. Again, the only problem is, it's a physical game. Staying fit is a hell of a lot easier to say than actually do.
Yep, averaged say Texas A&M 10 touchdowns, averaging 6.3 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Second team all honors.
Yeah, I mean he looks like, but he misses a lot of football. The tour thing.
What's it right in Miami?
The best, the best attribute is being available. And he doesn't always fit that.
100%.
Yeah, he was the one that stood out to me. Just like obviously the Texas A&M connection with A-Chain, but also we don't really have the depth at running back like that. Like Jalen Wright looks okay to sprinkle in places. Ollie Gordon, obviously for goal line and like short yardage ones, but you can't just keep Devon A-Chain's just going to get hurt if you're giving him like 30, 40 touches a game and expecting him to be your entire offense, which is what it looked like before the draft, at least. So you've got to have somebody, and I think, not expecting Moss to be a starter or play lots, but to just sprinkle him in and give A-Chain like a break now and again.
Yes.
And he's got that profile where he can still make plays for you.
And that's where even though it would really pain me to see him traded, My worry is, do we break him before we get good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
When it
quite
comes to
likely
position.
running backs. He has been
You know,
hurt, like not a bad one, but he's had like niggling ones that it's trending in that direction, isn't it? And if somebody's like 49ers lose McCaffrey early, you might get a first rounder for him. And you think, well, when you're building, and you don't really want to have to pay him like top 5 running back money, which you will have to pay him. So
I mean, I'd pay him. I'd sell my house. Like, you know, I'd pay him.
I would, although I feel like
I've hit him
on the head there. We'll give him the contract, then break him.
That's the Miami way, isn't it?
That is my one. Yeah. So excellent. Well, I mean, we're up to an hour and a quarter now, guys. So we probably should today. But it's been fantastic talking Finns football with you all. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Lots of great insights from everybody. Very much appreciated. Obviously, you know, we're all in the chat, so you're more than welcome to come on again in the future. Thank you for your time and for your very, very considered input. Very much appreciated, and a few laughs along the way, which is always good fun as well. So So I think all that's left is to sign off to the Fins Nation UK. Say thank you all for watching. Like I say, hopefully this is going to become kind of a weekly thing. You know, we'll try and keep the content going throughout the off season. We've got the next show. We're probably going to have Wayne on talking about his experiences in Pittsburgh and how the draft went. And then we'll probably have a little bit of a state of play with the Dolphins, because we haven't done these for a while, kind of reviewing all the changes over the off season in terms of kind of what's happening with Sullivan and Hafley and the whole host of coaching changes, what that leaves for the future, where we're going to be going, and kind of how fit people are feeling. And we'll obviously kind of hopefully get folks back on and see how we're all doing ahead of the new season and everything else like that. So thanks again for your time, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
No worries. And see you, Fins Nation. We'll speak soon. Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
See you later. See you later.